7-year war against Iran. Then he went on to talk about the war in Lebanon, and now it seems we've got her back translating his thoughts, so why don't we check back in now?
In the past 60 years, what is the legal basis of establishing a government within an occupied territory? And look at the heavy cost. Tens of thousands of people were killed, many were displaced, many became refugees, villages were destroyed, and great catastrophes such as Ghair Yasin and the Sabra and Shatira killings, as well as the daily murder of Palestinian youth. In return, the Security Council has remained handicapped. Whenever a group decides to pass a resolution condemning these acts, some big powers veto them or prevent implementation of the provisions of a resolution. This has happened so often that supporting the Zionists has become a consistent method in the record of some members of the Security Council. Regretfully, the story does not end here. Iran, with 7,000 years of historical civilization, a rich culture, philosophers, mathematicians, astronomers, scientists who are unique in their efforts are now being threatened. In thousands of years of their history, Iranian people have supported peace, stability, and security. They're one of the most pious people, the most humanitarian nations. When Islam was introduced in Iran, our nation progressed even faster. Before Islam, Iranians were also at the forefront of scientific and philosophical and literary developments. After the Renaissance period and the invasions that occurred in Iran, our country became a bait for big powers and confronted numerous challenges. In the early part of the 20th century, the British used Iran as a bait many times and forced puppet regimes on us. Nonetheless, the Iranian people rose and was able to expel the Brits and to establish the government it wanted. In 1332 or 1953 Gregorian calendar year, the U.S. government interfered to overthrow a legitimate government in our land and to replace a dictator through a coup. For 25 years, the Iranian nation had to continue living under the dictatorship that was forced on us by the United States. And that drew the country back tens of years. Iran's resources, and especially its oil wealth, was looted. In 1979, finally, the people rose again under the leadership of Imam Khomeini, may peace be upon him. Without support from either Western or Eastern powers, overthrew the dictatorship and established the Islamic government. In the past 28 years, our people have paid a heavy price for their independence and the maintenance of the Islamic system. In the beginning of the revolution, we witnessed domestic turmoil that was brought to us by external groups, and then an 8-year imposed war with Iraq, supported by great powers, were all part of the conspiracies and plots against our nation by big powers. Throughout the imposed war, Saddam was encouraged by a number of Western countries to attack Iran over a border area of 2,000 kilometers by air, land, and sea. The East and West blocs and their allies in the region provided military, security, intelligence, and financial support to Saddam. In addition, they imposed an economic sanction on Iran to block Iran's ability to export its oil. In the last year of the war, the United States officially launched an attack on our country. It attacked our oil platforms and downed a passenger air flight over the waters of the Persian Gulf. Nonetheless, the brave people of Iran, having withstood the aerial bombardments during the war with Iraq, resisted. The young people of Iran, through their bravery, withstood enemy attack in the war front and did not allow not even
We have been listening here, and we will continue to listen to Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad listing the grievances that Iran has felt, the injustices that it has suffered at the hands of Western powers. He's working his way toward a discussion of today's events in which those Western powers will be the people he wants to oppose in his remarks. First talking about Britain and what it did with Iran's oil wealth, and then talking about all of the injustices that Iran suffered at the hands of Western powers from the time of its Islamic Revolution, which was established in 1979, saying that even the war against Iraq, 8 years of devastating fighting, were really brought on by outside forces, the West encouraging Iraq to attack Iran and working to, as part of that war, to block Iran's ability to export its own oil resources. Repeatedly discussing oil resources here and other resources, working his way, in the eye of some experts, probably to a discussion of Iran's need now for nuclear power to enable it to sidestep this kind of outside interference by Western powers and others. Let's jump back in now and listen to these continuing remarks from President Ahmadinejad.
And especially in providing intelligence and military assistance, as well as providing Saddam's army with chemical and biological weapons to attack us. Nonetheless, the war criminals were never brought to justice. The governments that provided chemical weapons to Saddam were never questioned. Our dear person here, a wonderful reporter, Mr. Nobave, is one of the victims of the chemical weapons used by Saddam. Our people look at him and remember what a man he was, how strong he was. The Security Council failed to prevent the aggressor, and even more, while our country was occupied by Iraq, our country was forced to accept ceasefire and an occupation. The result of that was that eventually Saddam invaded Kuwait and occupied Kuwait. But that time, since oil resources were endangered, the government of the United States and its allies came to the region and repelled Iraqi troops from Kuwait immediately. Truly, what was the blame given to our nation for imposing a war on us for 8 years? What were we convicted of?